Hey, welcome to episode 5 of Final Guys, where tonight we are going to talk about what comes at night. I'm your
Yeah.
co-host, Hunter Shea, author extraordinaire, awesome guy. I'm joined with my brother from another mother, fellow monster man, Jack Campese,
What up?
and the douche himself, writer, nice guy. He's got a funny laugh, and we're going to really rag on him tonight because he told us not to, Jason Brandt.
That is not what I said, you son of a bitch.
The man who's so bad he's good, Jason.
And you are, for those of you who are watching us live, and I'm going to say this a couple of times on the show, you don't just have to download us on audio. We are also available live streaming on our YouTube channel. So you go to finalguys.com every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're here, whether we want to be or not. And so that's when we're live. You can catch us and see how absolutely dumb we look and on camera. And I think what we're going to do is start out today with a little bit of horror news from little Jackie.
All right. Well, first of all, my first bit of news is my favorite piece of news, and I didn't know about it till this morning. This day, 42 years ago, the movie Jaws came out in theaters.
So you and I remember it, and Jason was not even a thought.
Was not even a twinkle in his parents' eye yet.
I had a couple years to go, but that shocked me actually when I saw that this morning. I couldn't believe it's been 42 years.
And it's funny because people, Star Wars gets all the ink when it comes to like big movies that just took the nation by storm. But Jaws was the one that really started it. Everything had Jaws on it, and it just swept the nation. And for people who watch it today and like laugh at the shark effects or something, when you saw that movie back then, you didn't have DVDs and Blu-rays to watch the movie 18 times in a row. You saw it once, then you went to the beach, and you didn't see it again for like half a year to a year if you went back to the theater or whatever. So that movie, and the special effects back then, that was like light years ahead of anything.
Oh yeah, that movie was so big that it stayed in the theater for almost a year, and then they brought it back in the theater in double features. They'd put it and Grizzly together, or it and the Day of the Animals or something. So that was one of those few movies that before the advent of VCRs, you could actually watch that over and over again because they kept bringing it back.
And the testament to that movie too is that it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I actually the shark parts are my least favorite parts of that movie. It's all the dialogue and the scenes that make that movie. It's like one of the greatest horror movies of all time, but it's one of the greatest character movies of all time.
It gave the template on how to make a monster movie without showing the monster.
Yeah,
That almost no one has followed correctly since, but that's how you do it.
so I have the anniversary Blu-ray that came out a couple of years ago where they remastered it. And it looks amazing. There's a documentary on that called The Shark is Still Working or something like that. It's longer than the actual movie. It's tremendous. You've seen behind the scenes Jaws stuff before, but this is like the documentary about Jaws, and Dreyfuss just talks about hell. Robert Shaw just beat the hell out of him in that during the filming of that. It's amazing. So anyway, happy birthday, Jaws.
42. Good Lord.
Quick Godzilla 2 news. The roster of other monsters that are going to be in the movie has been released. And besides Godzilla, we're going to see Mothra, Rodan, and, of course, everybody's three-headed monster, King Ghidorah.
King Ghidorah? What about Godzuki?
Huh?
What about Godzuki? Remember Godzuki?
On Father's Day, I saw a lot of memes with Godzilla and Godzuki.
I used to love him as a kid.
So we got that to look forward to, and then I guess after that will be when King Kong shows up. Next piece of news, probably the most interesting of everything. The guys who made you guys watch Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch?
I haven't seen it.
Don't, but my daughter has watched every episode at least 5 times. No joke.
It's very good. The people who made that series are going to make a Dracula series. So I think it's going to follow the same template of taking the story and bringing it into modern times. And if it's anything like Sherlock, I'm happy to see it because I think they'll take the heart of the story and then they'll modernize it, bring in, if they get actors like they did for Sherlock, I'm looking forward. The BBC knows what they're doing with this kind of stuff. So
I wonder if they'll do the same thing they do with Sherlock, where each episode is literally, it's an hour-and-a-half movie.
Yeah, because the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, I'll just binge watch some of this. And all of a sudden I'm like, geez, this is long.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, each one is like a movie.
That's why their seasons are like 3 episodes long.
Yeah. All right. Kevin Smith is shooting a new horror movie. It's an anthology. And yeah, it's going to be called Kilroy Was Here. And Kilroy, I guess, is going to be the monster in the movie. And I guess it's going to be the kind of thing that where if somebody does something naughty or crosses a line or something, Kilroy is going to be the creature that exacts the vengeance or whatever on it. So, after seeing Yoga Hosers, I'm not really looking forward to anything Kevin Smith does in the theater too much, but I'll have to see a preview before I pass.
I'm gonna forgive him the Bratzies, and I'm just gonna remember Tusk, and hope that he can give me Tusk again.
Yeah, he did a short in that anthology. Which one was it?
Holidays.
Yeah, that was bad, and
that was the worst one of that movie.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with some of his stuff lately. I don't know. He's made some movies I absolutely love, so I try not to get on the hate train everybody likes to throw him on, but man, Yoga Hosers. Whew.
I just watched Mallrats this weekend again. I love that movie.
Mallrats is great.
Great movie.
So anyway, he's doing that. My last piece of news: Glenn Close is joined a Amazon pilot called Sea Oak, and let me read the description of this. It's a mix of horror, drama, and family revenge comedy. Glenn Close's character is Aunt Bernie, described as a meek, unmarried woman with no children in a working-class Rust Belt city who dies tragically in a home invasion. Compelled by sheer force of dissatisfaction, she comes back from the dead full of rage and determined to get the life she never had. She proceeds to inflict a range of demands on what's left of her nuclear family, including a quasi-stripper nephew and 2 feckless nieces who live in the low end of a subsidized hellhole of a housing complex called Sea Oak.
I love that they used the word feckless.
Yeah.
I'm in at feckless.
You had me at feckless. So listen, this kind of Hunter Shea, this sort of feels like something you would write.
Exactly.
So,
that sounds
I'm
really
in.
Cool.
I'll check that out. And Glenn Close is great. So
remember when she was really hot? I mean, we saw Fatal Attraction a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't remember her being that incredibly hot.
Yeah, I watched that not long ago too. She got a little bit of naked in that movie.
She sure did. Back in the 80s when everyone got naked.
Fatal Attraction was perfectly cast because Anne, what's her name?
Anne Archer.
Anne Archer was just like everybody's ideal. Like, oh, how could you cheat on this beautiful, sweet woman? And then Glenn Close had that like sexy. I want that, but I only want it in secret and on the side. Like,
she had that David Coverdale hair going.
Yes. Here I go again.
Oh yeah.
You know that movie's well done when you are feeling bad for the guy who cheated on his wife about halfway through.
Yeah.
Like, this guy really screwed up.
When she goes to look at their place and Ann Archer's kind of like showing her around, I'm like, oh my God, I would just die if I was that guy.
Hey, listen, Glenn Close was in Guardians of the Galaxy as Nova Prime, so.
Oh, that's right, she was. No, I like Glenn Close.
She's also just recently in that horror movie, The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh, is that good? I've been circling that one.
It's not bad. Yeah,
it's on my list. I gotta watch that. All right, so
that's all I got.
Before we jump into what we've watched this week, I just want to let you all know, if you stay tuned, I'm going to give away a free copy of my latest book, Just Add Water. It came out last week. If you like 80s nostalgia and killer sea monkeys, this is the book for you. So it's part of my Mail Order Massacres trilogy. So stay tuned. At the end of the episode, I will tell you how you can be eligible to win.
You had me at sea monkeys.
Hey, my editor had me at Sea Monkeys. I jumped right on that.
I
Hey,
wish you told me
remember
that.
recently when I mentioned caramel M&Ms?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have some here. They're delicious. So if you hear me chewing,
That didn't sound loud at all.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't piss off anyone in their car listening right now.
Sound like their rear bumper cracking. All right.
Wish
So
you told me.
Jason, what did
I
you
was gonna
say?
say, I
Oh
wish
no,
you told
go
me
ahead.
you were giving away a copy of that book. I just bought the damn thing yesterday.
Sucker. I'll give you $1.99 back.
Anyway, I interrupted you.
No, I was saying, why don't we lead off with you? Tell us. You said you watched a lot of movies this week, so you were
Yeah, okay. You know what? I might do two or three, and then let you guys go, and then I'll do two or three more.
Holy
I
crap.
I apparently didn't do shit this week as I'm looking at my list.
I watched one of the same ones as you, so I can't wait till you get to that one.
Get
All
off
right,
that
well,
couch, you bum.
that is what I am jumping off with first. It is called Man Versus.
That's the one I saw. Yep.
Just came out on Netflix. It's essentially about the host of one of these TV shows, Man vs. Wild, and whatever the hell else they are, where guys go out and pretend to rough it and eat bugs and shit for no apparent reason. And it's basically one of those, but a guy's trying to launch his show to the next level. So he and his crew go out into, I think it was northern Canada. It's just way out in the middle of nowhere. And the crew kind of drops him off, and they're at a camp a couple miles away. And he's just recording himself doing all this stuff. And he starts, he hears a big crash one night while he's sleeping, but he doesn't get up to investigate it, which was interesting. And he starts hearing things in the woods, and his camp starts being changed, and all these interesting things start happening. But it's about half found footage, half conventionally shot, which I thought was interesting. And the found footage thing makes sense because he has cameras set up on himself all the time, and he's narrating to them as he's doing things. So I thought the setup was really good, and I was pretty interested in this movie, to be honest. I didn't expect to be, and the first 10 minutes actually looked, it was shot at night with an RV, and there's some stuff with his family that looked kind of, I don't want to say cheap, but it kind of felt cheap. And my wife and I kind of set it aside, and I went back to it a couple days later, and it wasn't bad. The end has CG that would make the Sci-Fi Channel proud. It's honestly, I don't understand. They must have run out of money. That's all I can figure, because that CG was so bad. But otherwise, I thought the movie was interesting. What do you think, Jack?
Okay. I felt like this movie is very entertaining. I knew very little about it. And for like I don't know if it's like an hour and a half, but let's call it an hour and a half. For an hour and 10 minutes, it's mostly him in the wild. Great mix of found footage and then traditional, which I wish more movies would do. Just use the found footage parts and then just switch back and forth. Then they hint at what's out in the woods with him a little bit. But then, as you said, in the third act of this movie, which takes a long time to get there, all of a sudden this turns into ice spiders on the Sci-Fi Channel. Like
I love ice spiders.
But the special effects are just like the Sci-Fi Channel like is a step above. And I almost hate saying that, because like you almost just want to watch this movie to see this happen, because you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So it turns out it goes from being like a pretty promising movie to like something you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that movie. That's like that movie that has a really silly ending to it. But it's it's on Amazon Prime, so it's like a good, like, if you're in a mood for a stupid watch, like you could do worse than that movie.
I thought the lead actor actually carried it really well, and then that CG crap showed up at the end, and it just cheapened the movie a lot.
And it really borrows a lot from Predator.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Just a little. Okay. Second up, Jack, I'm going to smash you with those things.
But first of all, yeah, before you do anything, warn him. I thought he was going to choke on M&Ms when you just cut to him. He wasn't ready.
These are so good.
The second movie I watched was also on Netflix, called Dig Two Graves. and it stars Ted Levine and a girl whose name I can't remember. And I'm down for anything with Ted Levine. That guy is great.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of those guys who does a lot of low budget stuff, but seems to pick decent stuff most of the time. He doesn't just do complete shit. This movie was the story of... It basically started off with Ted Levine, who was a deputy, I don't know, 30 or 40 years earlier. He's throwing some bodies into this quarry with the sheriff. And then he turns on the sheriff and says, "You're no longer in charge of this town. I'm taking over." And then it skips to the future, and a girl and her brother are at the quarry, and they're going to jump off a ledge down into some water that has filled it. And the girl chickens out at the last second. The brother jumps off into the water. It's only 20 feet. It's not high. And he never comes back up. And he's never found and is presumed dead. And then through the rest of the movie, it's kind of the girl's guilt of not jumping with him, not being able to help him, and her kind of dealing with the loss of her brother. And then these guys show up who are in this weird garb. One guy has a top hat, and they're telling her they can help her and sacrificing snakes and shit. And the first half of this movie I was in. It was incredibly interesting. And then when these weird occult guys show up and talk about helping her bring her brother back with all this weird stuff, it starts to go down. I don't want to say it's a bad movie. It's not. But I feel like had they stuck with a little more of the mystery of the beginning and what was going on with Ted Levine, and you were seeing some occult symbols and things like that, but it was kind of in the background, and it really takes the forefront later on. And that, which is stuff I'm normally interested in, but in this case, I felt like it kind of took away from it a little bit. But it's a Netflix movie. I mean, you can definitely do worse.
Is it worth watching if you have a cold and you're in bed?
It's not bad. You could do worse. I mean, for guys like us, I mean, you're gonna watch it. Right. Would I recommend this to my mom? Probably not. And let's see. I also watched a movie on Amazon Prime called Night Skies, which I thought of you while I was watching it because it's about aliens.
That's on my list to watch. How is it?
So I watched it, and that's about all I'm going to say about it, I think.
Is it found footage?
No, it's just... So it takes place during the Phoenix Lights. All of a sudden, for some reason, there are 10 movies coming out all of a sudden that are about the Phoenix Lights.
I saw Forgotten Phoenix in the theater a couple of months ago, which Ridley Scott produced.
I didn't see that yet. Is it any good?
There's a nugget of something good in there, and at like 75 minutes, it's too long.
Okay.
I'll tell you offline. But
this movie is basically called Driving in the Winnebago and Hearing Things Outside.
Walking Dead season finale from last year.
Yeah. There's almost no alien stuff until the very end. Maybe the last 10 minutes there's some interesting stuff, but then there's some CG in there that's... Yeah, honestly, there was some stuff in there that was okay, but it was definitely more of a low-budget affair and a little bit too much beating around the bush for me. So, I don't know. I would probably give this one a pass. That was Night Skies on Prime. All right. I got more, but I'll pass on to you guys for a little bit.
Yeah. Jack, what do you got?
All right. First of all, on Amazon Prime, I found a little gem. It's a 1996 horror series called 100 Years of Horror, hosted by Christopher Lee.
What?
Hunter, this is the kind of stuff you and me like grew up on. It's,
what the hell?
I don't know how many episodes there are. I watched the first two, which the first one's about Dracula and the second one is about vampires. And then I skipped ahead and watched the episode about witches. And basically it's a retrospective of horror movies from the start to around 1996. So a lot of stuff has not come out yet. So when they're talking about vampire movies, a lot of the stuff that normally we get talked about now on like a podcast or something hasn't even been made yet. So they're really focusing on some of the older stuff. And first of all, the opening credits is classic, like early computer graphics. It really cheesy 3D. You'll get a kick out of that. And then Christopher Lee narrates the thing. He's on screen a little bit. I enjoy it so much, and it's so worth it just because I watched the witch one, and there's so many witch movies I've just never heard of or never seen that it was just like a treasure trove of, oh, I got to check that out. I got to watch that. So The
Called-
third
called
episode,
Bryant Moreland.
Frankenstein, you'll love that. So
Oh, really? Oh, I never heard of that. How did I miss that?
What's
it
it called
just
again?
came on Amazon Prime. So I was like just hunting for something, and
100
they're a
years
half
of
hour
horror.
long. So you can just bang them out here and there when you don't have a you know you're not going to stay awake for an hour and a half movie, but you want to sneak something in.
So it's 100 years of horror, right?
100 Years of Horror. If you look at my Twitter feed from a few days ago, I put a screenshot up of the thumbnail. Also on Amazon Prime in my hunting, so I watched Man vs. I watched this 100 Years of Horror, a few episodes. I found this documentary called Unearthed and Untold: The Path to Pet Sematary, which is a documentary about the movie Pet Sematary. And it's really interesting. I think that's an okay movie. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I love the book so much. Thought the movie was okay. Probably stands up better. I probably like it now better than I did when it came out.
Dad is better.
This is really interesting. They got almost everybody, including these bit characters. They tracked down everybody. The kid who played the Gage, they show him grown up, and he's pretty cool. They interviewed the director and everything. A couple of highlights. They show the woman who had the real Pet Sematary that Stephen King was inspired by, and she has the sign.
Right. I've been there.
Oh, you have?
It's off the. It's in Portland, so it's right. It's like a little island kind of area in Portland.
So you see that, and then you see where he stayed, and the road that inspired, with the two houses and the busy road. They show that actual locations, and they filmed it in Maine, so it has a real authentic feel. And then one of the other cool things is Zelda. That's usually the thing that everybody sticks with everybody.
Yeah.
Zelda was played by a guy.
Yes, I remember that.
And they interviewed the guy. So I had no idea. Very, very interesting. I think it's 2 hours or something like that. But I was entertained the whole time. I was very interesting. Good stories about it. It maybe didn't need to be as long as it was, but I liked it. It's worth watching.
I'm with you. Pet Sematary is one of those movies that I liked. I didn't love, but I've always wanted to go back to it again because I felt like I enjoyed the book so much. I wondered if I maybe judged the movie too harshly based on the book or not, because I do that a lot if I love a book.
Right. I love that movie because a Hollywood studio had the balls to kill a kid right in the very beginning. I don't know if you probably wouldn't do that now.
They were even talking about the book was delayed because of that. The whole kid dying was a big deal.
Right.
Also, the daughter in the movie was played by twins, so that both of them are interviewed in it.
Oh, cool. I want to watch that. Isn't it 2.5 hours long or something?
It's long. It probably could have been a little shorter, but it's also the kind of thing that if you need to, you can pause it and go get yourself a drink or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
no, I want to watch that bad. That's on Prime, right?
it's on Prime, yeah.
Are you now feel weird about your attraction to Zelda?
It reinforces it. Now I know the landscape. No surprises. No.
When I put my hand down there, I know what I'm looking for.
Ooh, sometimes dead is better.
In that case.
Last thing is just it's not a horror movie, but in light of the main attraction that we're going to talk about tonight, A Simple Plan was on, and in the wake of Bill Paxton's death recently, I rewatched The Simple Plan. It was on HBO the other day, and I was just like, oh. And I'm so glad I watched that movie. Because the movie we're going to talk about, It Comes at Night, there's a lot of character work in that movie and a lot of family drama. And
right.
I watched this movie, and I'm like, you know what? If you want that stuff, you should start with this movie. It's such a good movie. So entertaining.
It's a really good movie.
It's also, Bill Paxton had a lot of great roles and a lot of over-the-top roles. He's so, understated in this movie. And, you really see him. And Billy Bob Thornton's such a whack job in that. They just play off each other so well. So
yeah,
not exactly horror, but tension.
Hey, every now and then you have to cleanse the palate, and you cleanse it with something good. Nothing wrong with that.
But that movie easily could have been a horror movie. You just add a little more violent deaths to that, and it's a horror movie, you know?
Maybe a disemboweling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension in that movie. I remember liking that quite a bit. Was that a Sam Raimi movie?
Yes.
Is it?
Yep.
It's been a
It
while
was
since I saw it.
pre-Spider-Man.
Good call.
Yeah.
That's all I watched, besides Man's Versus, which we already talked about.
Well, then I'll jump in. Since I now subscribe to Shudder, I'm going to watch Shudder and bring you all a Shudder movie at least every week, at least one. I went back and watched a movie that I only saw once, and I really liked it then. Castle Freak. You guys know that? Jason's dog knows it.
She got very excited at that mention.
I know. Castle Freak? Where the hell did you watch that? It's from 1995. It's directed by Stuart Gordon, who all of you should know. He's the director, and he created Reanimator and From Beyond, and gave us the great team up of Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton, who return in this movie as husband and wife, who inherits a castle from this duchess who's a distant relative, and they move into this Italian castle. It was shot in Italy. Half the people working on it were Italian. It's Jeffrey Combs starting out relatively normal, and then gradually escalating into Jeffrey Combsism. He really brought his piness to it. One more episode. Mark that shit down. So there is a creature living in the castle that they have no qualms about showing who this creature is about midway through. It's kind of like this pale, almost Zelda-like thing. You don't know whether it's a man or a woman until you realize you see a close-up of its nards and its half cut off penis. So it lost its penis. Somebody cut its penis off. But it's also exceedingly horny. So it wants women and mutilates them. Then it wants Barbara Crampton's daughter. Barbara Crampton is actually pretty reserved in this. She's a mom who Jeffrey Combs, drunk driving, had his little son and his maybe 12-year-old daughter in the car. He killed the son and blinded his daughter. So this guy comes in this with a lot of baggage, and he's not drinking anymore, but she hasn't forgiven him. So you got this kind of drama going on with them. But then you have just the usual batshit insanity in a Stuart Gordon movie with a no penis monster disemboweling a hooker who Jeffrey Combs brings into the dungeon to have sex with. You get nudity. You almost have like little girl nudity, which was a little disturbing. But look, it's not his best, but it's actually, I thought it's a pretty good movie, and it's part of the canon. And it's, to me, Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton, that's my bogey and Bacall. I want to see them in many movies as possible. So check out Castle Freak. It's on Shudder.
I don't remember a ton of that movie, but I remember there being some really crazy gore in it.
They spare no expense to make it as bloody as humanly possible.
Gotta love Stuart Gordon.
It's disturbing. There's parts I'm like going, oh God, why are they showing this? Do I need to see like this thing's balls right in my face? Jack. All right, good.
What?
But I just wanted. I set you up. I wanted to see if you were eating M&Ms or what you were going to say.
I'm not eating M&Ms. I'm noticing that I have to go get the plug for my laptop soon.
Oh, he's dying. So I only watched the one movie, but I did read a book. I went back and revisited one of my favorites. It's Whitley Strieber's first novel, The Wolfen, which you all remember the movie Wolfen. It's about werewolves in New York City, and it's two cops, an older guy and a younger woman. They're partners, and they're trying to solve this case of these just brutal. It starts out with the murder of two policemen in a compound, not a compound, like a junkyard, and it just goes from there. But it tells us what the cool thing of the story is. It's a police procedural, and on the other side, it's the story of the wolves from their perspective. And they're werewolves that have been around forever. And the bigger the city, the easier it is for them to hide in the shadows. So they're very intelligent. They're never men. They're just a type of wolf that throughout time, people have given them the moniker werewolf. So, excellent book. One of his bests before his abduction and hero communion, and then kind of went off on that tangent.
That's got to be from like the 70s, right?
It is from the 70s. I found a copy at a yard sale, a hardcover copy. I read it every few years. It's really good.
Worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. So here we go. We have now shared our movies with you, and we
got a couple more.
Oh crap!
I'm killing it.
All right, you tell your movies. I'm gonna go grab my cord.
All right. I've got some interesting ones here to end it. One was an Amazon Prime film called Savageland, which is told in a kind of documentary style, almost a Dateline sort of thing, about a town that is massacred and there is one survivor, and it's him going on trial for the murder of this town. And it's basically told in an investigative form, trying to figure out how the people died, how they think this guy pulled this off or did not do it, the evidence, things like that. It was done really interestingly. It was done really well. The director knows how to put stuff together. It started to really drag towards the end. It had a lot of social commentary to the point that it started becoming annoying. You know, so it took place on the Mexican border, so it was a bunch of anti-immigration stuff thrown in there, and
build the wall,
racist stuff, and which, you know, whatever. I like political commentary in my movies, even if it's stuff I disagree with if it's done well. But when I'm just getting beat over the head with it, it gets annoying, and this kind of was getting into that for me a little bit. But the style was really excellent. I wanted a little more punch towards the end that I didn't quite get, but it could be a filmmaker worth watching. That was Savageland on Prime.
Savageland, all right.
The other thing I discovered on Amazon Prime is Unsolved Mysteries. The first couple seasons are on there.
Robert Stack in his trench coat.
I love
You ever seen a grown man naked?
What's interesting when you go back and watch that, there's some movie stars in there. I spotted Matthew McConaughey in one of the episodes.
Really?
Very young Matthew McConaughey, yeah, but the theme song still gets me. I love it. If you grew up watching Unsolved Mysteries, that's going to be your jam.
That was in search of for the, what was that, late 80s, early 90s crew?
Yeah, that was my thing.
That show caused a stir not far from me, because where I live, we had the UFO flap of the Hudson Valley in the 80s. They filmed, they were doing a thing on the UFO flap, and they made this fake UFO that they put up on a crane that people went berserk calling in a UFO from the sky. And cops came out and interrupted the production of the show because they were responding to these frantic calls.
Finally, two things just to make you two happy. No one else will give a shit, but I made a couple purchases this week for So Bad It's Good. One of which is this little gem called A Best of the Best, starring Eric Roberts.
Oh my God.
If you haven't seen that, Eric Roberts acting in that makes Hulk Hogan look like a minimalist. It's utterly brilliant. And then I also picked up this Blu-ray pack of some beautiful Van Damme films, because I'm just going balls deep on them for that show. That's all I got.
You hate yourself more than anyone I know.
Hey man, Van Damme movies are great.
Are you going to jump around in your pajamas?
No, I think I pulled a hammy on that one.
Can you do the split like him?
Apparently you didn't watch the video, because I try.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
You ever see the video where he does the split on the trucks?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
God almighty. Okay. Are you done now?
I'm done.
We gotten through all your busy week.
I don't have a job, man.
All right. Let's move into our review tonight of It Comes at Night. And then scene. And here we are back again. One day we're actually going to have a bumper in there, and it's going to sound cool.
We'll have advertisers someday.
Maybe. It won't just be me and Jason advertising our shit. So, It Comes at Night. Jack, why don't you lead us off? Maybe tell us a little top line of the movie and what you thought. Spoiler free.
Well, first of all, let's just get this out of the way. It Comes at Night is the most misleading trailer for a movie ever. So if you have not seen this movie yet, but you saw the trailer, that is not what you're going to see. So,
no. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I believe that the studio did it to get fannies in the seats because it made its money back in the first week because of that. But I think it also pissed people off.
It probably made more money, and it probably made more enemies, because whether you think it's a good movie or not, when you go in expecting one thing and then you get something so different, there's a whole thing of, well, maybe I'm never gonna like it because I wanted something that I didn't get. Anyway, so this movie is about, you're in a post-apocalyptic world. Some sort of virus has taken hold. This movie is very vague and leaves a lot for you to fill in the blanks on in a lot of places. So we don't know everything about the virus, what it did, how far into it. All we know is they're somewhere. I think they're in New York, and a family is in a home that's boarded up and secure, so that you can only get in through one way. You get in through this one red door, and then there's sort of a outer area where to enter this house, you'd go into this first room that has like plastic, and then the only way into the house is through a door. The movie begins with one of their relatives succumbing to the virus, and then they have to put the person down, and then shortly after that, somebody tries to invade the home, and the movie goes from there. And so the rest of it is sort of a claustrophobic, what happens to these people trying to survive this in this world.
Good job.
Now, how did I feel about this movie?
I know you didn't like this movie.
I didn't like this movie.
See?
I didn't hate it, though. But here's the thing.
What? Are you serious?
When you two idiots start talking to me about how important it is for character development and, the themes that were going on here and stuff, I say this, and take notes, because maybe you could use this in your books. Stuff has to be entertaining. And the problem with this movie is that it's not very entertaining. It's kind of good, and you keep waiting for something to happen, and then when stuff actually happens, you're like, really? That's all that's going to happen?
So was it a wet fart for you?
It was a wet fart. That's a great way to put it. Like, it was just like, first, I expected to walk into this supernatural, crazy ass, the reviews of this, how great it is. Oh my God, it's the scariest movie ever, blah, blah, blah. Black-eyed people in the trailer. I'm expecting like Evil Dead kind of crazy, dark crap. And instead, it's just some pretty good stuff that goes on in there. And I'm watching it going, this sort of has a Dawn of the Dead feel to it, where, all right, now they're in the mall and they're everything's okay for a while, but crap's going to hit the fan in a little while. Once they get to that third act where stuff is supposed to hit the fan, you don't even sort of realize you're in the third act. And then everything unfolds, and you're sort of like, for me, I was just like, that's it. So I walked out there going, good acting. There was some good scenes in it.
Very good acting, I thought.
But it's so forgettable. Like I walked out going, okay, that was okay. But will I ever like turn it? Will I ever watch it again? Probably not. Will I ever?
Did you hear that?
No,
I did.
Holy crap! I might be paralyzed.
I think we should call a doctor.
Holy shit.
Well, all right, so that's my general impression. Go ahead.
I know that Jason now totally disagrees with you just from his general reaction here. So hit him both barrels.
Well, let me just say that I freaking loved this movie. I think it's probably going to be in my top 3 horror movies for the year. But I also won't argue with anyone who did not like this seeing it in the theater. Except for you, because you're a dickwad, and we have a show where we have to talk about movies.
Right, no, I love your amateur takes on this, so go ahead.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Honestly, the trailers for this and the advertising, the freaking poster, the goddamn name are so misleading for this movie that I have no qualms of people being pissed off, and they deserve people not liking this movie in the theater. They truly deserve it, because what I expected going in was not what I got. Fortunately, I really loved it. I mean, I was in the whole time, but I had a feeling as soon as we got out and I looked it up, I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score was incredibly high, which surprised me. And then I saw the user score was very low.
Very low, yeah.
And that just really resonated with me. And they kind of did the same thing with The Witch. If you saw those trailers before it came out, that was misleading as well. But you got a little more of a supernatural kind of payoff in The Witch than you got in this.
At least there's a witch in The Witch.
I've got more to talk about in the spoilers section. I'll put it that way. But
yeah,
I thought, you want to talk about character development? I thought this movie nailed the characters. Joel Edgerton in this is transcendent. His performance is so understated.
He's straight up like a quiet Kurt Russell.
Oh, man,
even looks like
does
him.
He kill it. I absolutely loved him in this. I thought the ending was an absolute punch to the gut, almost on the level of The Mist. When I was walking out of that theater, I'm looking for a rope, thinking I'm going to have to hang myself, because life is not worth living after seeing this ending.
You're right.
That's where I am. I absolutely love it. I will recommend it to everyone. But if I can stress one thing enough, do not look up anything about this movie. Do not watch any trailers. Don't look at the damn poster, because you will expect something different than what you get.
Right. I completely agree with you. I went in the same thing. In fact, I had a bet with somebody about what the it was that came at night, and he was on the monster thing, and I said, no, I don't think it's going to be.
Spoiler alert, it's a boner.
It's a boner. Well, kind of. I totally agree. I can understand why people get pissed off, and I understand because, the general public is, a little dumber than most people.
And Jack.
No. No, I'm kidding. I absolutely, I'm in line with you. I love this movie. If you're going to do a bait and switch, the movie that you switch better be entertaining. And I loved it. It's tense. There is character development. And you know what? I really appreciate that. My kids took me to see Rio Bravo, a John Wayne movie. It's 2.5 hours long. And they capture a bad guy within the first 2 minutes. And then you wait till the last 10 minutes before the bad guy's brother comes to get him. So you've got almost 2.5 hours of character development, and it doesn't have to be action. That's a classic. And I think this, while this isn't a classic, I do like the idea that it wasn't what I was expecting. And you're right. When you compare it to The Mist, I walked out of there. I was like, oh, Christ, that was depressing as hell, but realistic. And I think that's what really got me, because as I'm watching what's going on, I'm going, man, I would probably do that too, just to protect my family. And there's not a lot of backstory as to why people are the way they are and why they're locked up in there. There's no explanation of why or how widespread, but you just know that it's urgent. And the father knows that he has to do whatever he has to do to protect his family. And it kind of goes between him trying to struggle to keep his family alive, and then his son, I think he's about 17 years old.
Yeah.
And the things that he's dealing with, he doesn't get to live a normal life as a teen, but he still has kind of like those teenager hormones and kind of thoughts going on in his head. He had to watch his grandfather get shot in the head and burned right in front of him. And I'm thinking, just the smell alone, you can't get that smell out of your nose. So that's going to haunt you alone. So it's a haunting, atmospheric movie, and I absolutely love the ending.
You burned?
I unfortunately was stuck with some guy burning alive in a car.
Oh, nice.
And you never forget that smell. Ever. My stomach was rumbling the whole time. I was starving.
Jesus Christ, this took a turn.
No. So I really liked it, and it might not be my top 3 of the year, but it's probably going to be on my top 10. And so I dig it, but I can understand why people won't like it. It's not for everybody. It's artsy. That's why I wore my glasses. It's an artsy movie. And there's a lot I want to say in the spoiler section of this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it and you plan to see it, do not listen to anything else besides this part, because you got to go in dry.
Yeah, because I think I figured out what it is.
Well, before we get to the spoiler section, there were a couple things I wanted to talk about with how interesting the filmmaking was in this, that I didn't notice it until about the end, but then I went and I looked it up to make sure I wasn't losing my mind, and I wasn't. The director actually changed the aspect ratio of the movie several times during it. So when it's playing normally, I don't even want to say what the aspect ratio was. Maybe 278 to 1 or something. But it goes down a little bit. So dream sequences are a huge part of this movie.
Yeah.
Which is something that normally drives me absolutely insane when all the good shit happens in a dream sequence, but it actually plays into the story of this more than most movies. But in the dream sequences, the aspect ratio goes down a little bit. The movie gets a little narrower. And as you get towards the end of the film, the aspect ratio, even when it's not in a dream, gets narrow and narrow until it's very tight. And then he starts shooting it handheld at the end and really close. And it gives almost a nauseous quality. It didn't make me sick or anything, but it gives that feeling for the characters, particularly on a lot of their reaction shots to things that are happening. And I also noticed there were very few musical cues throughout the film, except I think I heard a few during some dream sequences, and then at the end again he starts ramping it up. And to me, I kind of took that as you're seeing the nightmares play out through the film, and the end of the film is a literal real life nightmare. So those things all kind of converged at the end as horrible shit is happening. And I thought it was really interesting. And I remember sitting here, there's this guy behind me. So we went to this new theater, the Horizon. It's the one that has like the recliners, and you can get
I saw that
beer
picture
and
of you
burgers.
sitting there with your sandals on.
That's right, son. I don't wear shoes. Again, I ain't got no job, man. But there's this dude behind me who's munching popcorn like he's a goddamn cow out in the field. And I'm thinking, this dude is not appreciating what's happening in this film right now. And I'm thinking, because he came here to see some goddamn zombies.
Yeah, when does Rick Grimes come out there?
Exactly.
Kick some ass.
He wants to see somebody shoot these things with a crossbow. And I'm sitting here thinking, is the aspect ratio of this film changing? So
dude, you are geeking the shit out of this right now. Aspect ratios. Aspect ratios.
All right, I'm done. Spoiler time, asshole. I hate you both.
Aspect ratios. Anyway.
It worked, man. It was
aspect
effective.
ratio was fascinating. I'd have to recommend this movie because of the aspect ratio. And
You know, they used a very specific f-stop with the
exploding
camera.
space modulator.
Actually, speaking of S-Stop, I do think he was using different lenses. I need to look that up.
There we go. He
Sons
might have
of
used
bitches.
K-lens.
He used different Instagram filters too.
Apparently, I'm the only one qualified to do this show. Assholes.
Well, you know, you shoot that fantastic. It's so bad it's good.
It's out of focus half the time.
As
I'm glad you enjoyed another movie that you have to Wikipedia to understand. So, great job.
All right. All right. Since you've gone there, it's spoiler time. So, little kiddies, if you don't want to know about the movie, just go away. Come back, see the movie, come back, and then we're going to explain it to you. We're going to explain it to Jack, and you will learn. You are explaining it to Jack.
Jack gets it.
All right. So, everybody is bitching that there's no it, and it doesn't come at night. That's totally misleading. I believe absolutely it comes at night. Their demise comes at night because the entire movie is about sleepwalking.
That's what I thought too.
As a sleepwalker, that's my take on it, because there were things going on with that son that happened to me throughout my life as an occasional sleepwalker.
I thought
So it isn't a monster, but it is.
I thought the it was fear.
big.
See, I took it as him sleepwalking as well, because he has those nightmares, but he only has them at night. Obviously, it's when he's sleeping. But with the way the end plays out, with that door being open, and him being infected at the end, I really took as at night. That's when everything happened with all that stuff. That was my interpretation.
Okay, you guys explain this to me then, because it's interesting. Who sleptwalked and who opened the door?
He did.
The black
He's
kid.
having sleep issues the entire time. So the 17-year-old son, what the hell was his name? Travis. So through the movie, he's having trouble sleeping, which is natural. It's A, from fear, and B, their lives are completely disrupted, and he's a kid. And
Oh, he's upstairs in the attic wanking off half the first half of the movie.
Kind of, yeah. So
That's
what happened? His dog, yeah, the boner. When his dog runs away, he goes out at night looking for it in his sleep, and the dog has already been infected, and he's the one who brings the dog inside. He brings the
How
dog.
do you know he sleepwalks at night outside? They never show that.
It was in one of his dreams. In one of his dreams, he went outside, and I was wondering, is he actually sleepwalking? How much of this is a nightmare, and how much of this is happening?
Well, that's the thing. When you sleepwalk, there's huge parts you don't remember, but then there are other parts that you swear are dreams that then people tell you later, oh, no, you were doing that. You were standing up around talking to your posters on the wall.
How do you know the little kid didn't open the door?
I don't think he wouldn't even be tall enough to open up all those locks that are on it.
I don't think the little kid was infected at the end. I think it was just the older kid. I think he went out, he got the dog. I don't know if I was muted there or not because my own asshole dog was barking. But I was saying, yeah, I don't know if he was outside or not.
They never show whether the kid is infected or not.
Which was really interesting. He's always hidden at the end. And I don't know that we're actually ever going to get answers from the director because he clearly did that very purposely.
Mm-hmm.
But my interpretation was the older kid, the black kid, went out and got the dog and brought him in and then kind of woke up. And the white kid was not tall enough to do that, had never done that, and I don't know that he was ever infected.
Right.
You could say that the little kid opened the door, got infected, and that the older guy got infected when he carried the kid back to the...
You could.
Yeah, you could. When they shoot the younger kid, the sound of the mother's anguish was, to me, the most terrifying thing I've heard all year.
I made it my ringtone.
It's my alarm clock. I mean, it raised we saw it in the matinee. It was me, my mother, and my daughter. And it was so loud. It just raised every hair on my body straight on end. And then he does it, and he's not done. Right? Yeah. Because once you've gone there, well, you got a job to finish. And I was just like, oh, it was just, my guts were churning.
So his reaction to it was another thing that gave me pause and made me think that little kid was never infected. Because when he saw what he'd done, he just stood there for a while looking. And then their kind of reaction at the end, after having put down their own son, was just, they did things they didn't need to do. And what did they get out of it? Nothing. And now they have nothing worth living.
And they're going to die probably too.
Yeah, it's just my interpretation of it. But it was one of those that as I was walking to my car after the theater, I was thinking through, because I was kind of like you at the end, Jack, when it just went to credits. I'm like, that's it? That's the end of the movie? But then as I'm walking away, I started kind of piecing things together, thinking, holy crap. That was building for a while, and then that was probably the best end for this movie, because it never betrayed itself and became a zombie film. It was just these people and their paranoia and their fear.
And it's not that I wanted to, and again, I didn't hate this movie, but for all the weight you guys are giving to the impact of this, for me, I'm like, I've kind of seen this before. I saw The Mist, that has a kick you in the nuts ending. I've seen a whole bunch of Apocalypse ending with tough moments with families. So for me, I was like, oh, it's another one of these. So maybe I'm just jaded. I watched it, but entertainment-wise, and the fact, I don't mind that they left some things to debate and talk about, but I thought, again, it was a little too much of that. You just like, you walk out and you're like, wait, what? I was with other people too, and some of the people I was with hated it.
Right.
And I was just like, let me chew on this. And again, I didn't hate it. I was like, oh, that was interesting, but I just felt like, okay, there was like, the showdown they have with her that was kind of exciting, and some of the survival stuff and all that. But I also saw, like, I saw The Road. I saw the Battery.
You know what this reminded me of in terms of just that visceral reaction you get? Testament, which Testament is a nuclear apocalypse movie, and it's people in the suburb just dealing with that and watching just their kids slowly die from radiation poisoning. It kind of gave me that same vibe. And that movie's 35 years old, so we're more than ready for something new. I can't compare it to The Road, because The Road seems to be it's a bigger, more bombastic movie. And to me, this seems so real. I mean, this is, if you're avoiding infection, you're just in some cabin in the woods. I mean, this is your life. There was nothing so outlandish that you couldn't feel some connection to it, you know?
Yeah, let me say that one thing that often doesn't work for me in movies that really worked in this is the fact that you don't know anything. You don't know what caused the infection. Is there an infection? Is it worldwide? Is it not worldwide? You just have no idea. These people are in the woods and they get no answers. But the way it's set up worked for me so well because there's no long periods of exposition. There's just one line when he captures the guy at the beginning and he says, "Do you know what's going on out there?" And he says, "No." And that just perfectly sums up the explanations you're going to get in this movie, and it's jack shit. You don't even know if this is a zombie film. You really don't know. Do those people get infected and die? Do they become something?
See, I think it's a pandemic movie to me.
I never got zombie off of this.
It's some kind of thing that just makes you sick and gives you boils all over your body. And
I thought it had something to do with the water.
I mean, it could.
Totally could be. Yeah, I don't know. But there were hints that there was something else going on because when the dog is running and they're chasing him, the dog runs into the woods and is losing its mind and then just stops. And anyone who's had a dog knows something bad just happened to that dog. And for it to show up alive again later infected was interesting. So
yeah, I think maybe an infected person grabbed it, but then probably died soon after whatever they did to the dog.
One thing I really liked was the they have to have trust between the two families. And there's a little part where the guy that they let in, his story is inconsistent. And that's where the whole movie shifts. Like, they're working together, things are going great. Then there's one detail where he's like, "Wait, didn't you say this?" And now Joel Edgerton realizes that this guy's not being straight with him. And that,
right.
I like that kind of nuance in it.
Loved it.
So
I also like the way the two families were handling things because the family that had the house, they've gone into hardcore survival mode. The other family still has moments of tenderness and love, and they laugh and they make love, and they bring kind of that vibe into the house a little bit. And then the son, he's got a thing for, and this is one thing they set this up where he's got this boner crush because he's listening in from the attic to her talking to her husband and stuff, and
he's 17,
and they have a moment in the kitchen, and I was wondering where this was going to go, and they kind of just, yeah, okay. They did nothing with that. So I wanted to see that explored a little bit.
Yeah, I wondered if they'd set up some red herrings so that you would expect issues where there weren't some, or if that was just something they didn't flesh out. I wonder if it was something that maybe was cutting room floor, because this movie was only 90 minutes, which I appreciated quite a bit.
Yeah.
It was something you were just saying too, Jack, about I completely just lost my train of thought.
And you're the young guy.
Oh, they can't trust each other?
Yes, that's what it was. I thought that was really interesting the way they did that through the whole movie, because even when he's going to look for his family and they're in the truck and they get ambushed, you're thinking, does he know these guys? And even the way the whole thing played out with them fighting them and killing them, it really left doubt as to how much is this guy telling the truth. And then that line with the brother was just fantastic, and it just kept building and building and building until that end. It's like, no, they just wanted to leave. They didn't want to screw you. They didn't want to. They just wanted to get out of there with their fair share. And that's what made the end so tragic. Was everyone just jumped to the worst conclusions, and it was, oh, God.
Which is probably the way it would be, and I think that's why it's such a gut punch of a movie.
And I do want to add one more point, and then I think I'm done. This is not the kind of stuff I write. My stuff is way more action-packed, way more in your face. This is not my style. So for me to really get a movie like this, it has to be done really well. That doesn't mean everybody's going to like it, particularly if you've seen the trailers. But the writing's got to be on point. The tension has to be on point. And I felt really tense through this whole movie.
Yeah, me too.
Just the way they did, where you kept waiting for that guy to betray them and stuff like that, really got me. And so this is a style completely unlike anything I make, and I really dug it.
I find the older I get, the more I'm gravitating towards these kind of art house horror movies. But again, I'm like you. I don't write subtle stuff at all. My stuff is as subtle as a donkey kick to the balls. So I really like this. But I like The Black Coat's Daughter. I loved Raw. That was, I don't know if that was an A24 movie, the same studio.
A24. That's what
that
I
seems
wanted
to be where I'm
say.
going this year.
Remember when you were talking about that book last week, and I thought that I had seen a trailer or something for that movie, Apartment 10 or whatever?
Seance in Apartment.
Oh,
Whatever.
this Seance in Apartment 10.
A24, that logo, I've been seeing that logo everywhere. And so when you said Apartment 10, I saw a trailer for a movie that took place in an apartment, and I was equating it to that A24 logo. I was like, oh, that's where I got that from.
All right.
I remember that
Hey.
because then I started making fun of you, and then you called me Corky.
Well, you know,
This week, you're just a fucking geek.
if the,
Aspect ratio. Ugh.
Hey, man, just because you're not smart enough to notice this stuff.
if the orthotic shoe fits, wear it.
So, are we going to say, I think it's pretty clear, there are two people who really dig this movie and one who's a half digger. Are we right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say rent it, but I would not go see it in the theater.
No? What about you, Jason?
I would say if you have not seen any trailers, if you know nothing about this, go see it in the theater. If you have expectations based on that, I probably wouldn't want to spend money on it because you're not going to be happy. I would also say invest in A24. They're making killer films, and fire whoever in the hell's making their trailers because they're pissing me off.
Hey, they're making their money back, though. That's the key. I'd say see in the movie theater because I think if you're in a dark theater, your phones are off, and you that darkness, you're enclosed in that darkness and silence. I think you're really going to fall into the movie that way. I think if you're home, you get too many distractions. A lot of time, movies like this, I find you watch at home and it just loses its luster unless you can tell everyone to just shut the hell up and shut the lights
That's so
out.
funny. I just was not entertained by this movie as much as you two. I was just like, okay, that was all right.
Oh man, I was in. Yeah, this is one of those like The Black Coat's Daughter. Don't be checking Twitter. Don't be checking your email.
Mm-mm.
You just got to sit and watch it. And if it gets you, it gets you. If it doesn't, yeah, I could see people not liking this.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. But Jason and I enjoy watching for reals people dying.
Some of us have good taste, and some of us are Jack.
That's why I don't read your books.
Get you eat your M&Ms, Jack.
Actually, it sounds like you'd like my books. Things happened in them.
I actually do like your books.
See, you do have bad taste.
All right. Before we check out, I want to tell you all, since you've been waiting, I know. What's this Hunter book? How do I get this book? Just Add Water is out. All we need you to do is send an email to finalguyspodcast@gmail.com. And Jason assured me that's the address.
It is.
finalguyspodcast@gmail.com. And send us an email and tell us what things you wanted to buy in the old comic book ads when you were younger. And what I will do is I will pick out a random winner and you'll get a free copy of the book. So visit us there. And also just remember, everybody, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be live streaming our stupidity and our movie reviews and our just general fuck-uppery. That's what we do here. So finalguys.com. You can follow us there. If you don't know how to go through the YouTubes, go to finalguys.com. We got a nice little icon there. Just click it. Takes you right there. It's all good.
Yeah, if you just want to listen to us, I mean, that's easy. That's simple. Good on your commute. But if you want to talk to us while we're doing this podcast, Hunter and I have been commenting in the chats a little bit here and there. So if you're in there and you ask questions, we might answer them right on the show. So,
or we might ignore them. Oh, and Brian Brandt said, damn it, I forgot the time difference again. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, he's
You can download us and listen to us in your car, which I do, which is so bizarre to listen to myself in the car and maybe a little gross, but whatever. Anybody have anything else to close with, or are we done here, boys?
We're done.
Finalguys.com, baby. You can find all our stuff there. You can
All
find
right.
my Twitters.
Stick with us next week. Next week, we are going to discuss a Shudder exclusive film called Prevenge. It's pregnant, revenge, chick with a baby, fetus, murder. You're going to love it. Your plot's over it.
You had me at fetus.
That
Yeah,
really
it's
just
fetus.
sounds like us.
Exactly. So come back next week, episode 6, Prevenge. Until then, take care of yourselves.
Peace
night.
on the streets.
Touch your